Hello, everybody. This is Howard Fox, your business coach and LinkedIn lead generation expert. And I am back today on your Success Path Live. It's been a little while, but it's a beautiful, cool day here in Chicago. And I am excited to heat up the airwaves just a little bit because I have my good friend and coaching peer and just an all-around fantastic lady as a guest here today. And what I'm really excited about is to introduce you to Dorothy Kuhn, who is as she would describe it, the mystical Christian kid running around the woods. This was in Texas, I would imagine.
Actually on the East Coast.
East Coast, all right. With her little brothers and neighborhood kids, so fascinated with how cool the world is. And she wanted to learn all about it. So she was a good student. She studied science. She graduated in physics and in math. I won't tell her what my grades were there. She won her first professional position knowing more quantum mechanics than anyone else. I think this is a great discussion even in itself. Yeah, after a few years in system engineering, she knew her best shot at advancement was to get into management and leadership. But like anybody, but really I think for women, it's like, I'm smart, intelligent, and I know stuff, but how do I kind of pierce that glass ceiling, so to speak? So she's here to share how you, and this is, professional women out there, regardless of what you're doing, but probably, the sciences, the STEMs, background, anything where it's brains and it's know-how. How do you put that, at the front to get you to the front of the line, so you can have the career and the earnings you want while keeping your integrity and still have a home life. So that's that work-life balance piece that many of us hear about. And how does a successful, intelligent woman accelerate their path with targeted mentoring that gives you clarity that you need so you get career momentum and achieve the impact you want for yourself, your company, and really, at the end of the day, your family, all in a way that fits into your busy schedule. So Dorothy, I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to join me on your Success Path Live. It is always a treat to chat with you. In the past we've been able to do it face to face, but hey, virtual in my book is almost as good. So welcome, and good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here, and always, Howard, delighted to be with you. I know the best people, and you are at the top of the list.
I do appreciate that. Thank you. So Dorothy, as we kind of roll in for the next 30, 40 minutes, I wonder if we could start with just giving, we kind of gave a little bit in the short bio, but can you kind of add a little bit more depth, peel back the onion just a little bit more about your background and, how did you get from there to where we are today, sitting right here?
Sitting right here, yeah. Like everybody, that word career is really more akin to a similar word, careen. And that's often what we do in life. Some of us more so than others. I'm a kind of gal who likes a good amount of variety. And so, I found myself doing, in that first professional position. And, like I was being interviewed on physics problems, and okay. The guy this is back in the days when there were chalkboards in offices.
Oh,
and
boy.
There was one guy asking me the question and the other guy over here, and he was like putting hash marks for every one I got right.
Really?
I won the contest, So, but, that kind of really, it's wonderful to do. And I got to tell you, physicists have a tremendous sense of humor within that field. You wouldn't know it from the outside, but it's all, inside game.
Right.
And being able to take that into the workplace, to be able to have, a sense of humor, and then to realize, as geeky as I knew I was, there were a whole lot geekier people than me who were going to be, going up the fellow ladder. In any really core technology company, there's a management ladder and a fellow ladder. And I was not the triple integral type. I was good at that stuff, but there were people better than me. And so I realized, gosh darn it, I'm going to have to learn some people skills.
When you say the fellow ladder, I'm thinking fellow as in guy fellow, or fellow as in additional smart person.
Yes, that one.
Okay.
Like junior fellow, senior fellow,
Gotcha.
like you would have at Cambridge, at universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So, learning those people skills. So would it be, is it safe to say, I mean, perhaps it's more safe today to say people of all backgrounds and education levels kind of need to have some of those soft people skills, but back in the day, how important was that? And you had the aha moment that said, I need to learn this. How did that come about?
Well, it came about because I realized I was awkward. Just think about Sheldon, with mascara.
Okay. You're Sheldon with mascara. Okay.
Well, I was. And,
okay.
You wouldn't describe me like that now, but
right.
because, I was purposeful. And, I'm living proof that if you set your mind to learn something, even if it's, kind of far afield from what you think of as yourself will expand to the imagination you have for your future.
Right. Very good. It's a little bit of mindfulness and manifestation there.
It's true. So wanting it is the first step.
Yes. And wanting it and taking those first steps to actually do something about it, making a decision to do something about it. And how does that play out for you, especially when it comes to, again, being a very intelligent, certainly an award-winning scientist, but now you've got to, continue to excel and go up that ladder, but you can't do it all by yourself. So where does the mentoring come in there for you? Was that available to you?
Great question. I started out kind of self-mentoring with biographies of truly successful women, particularly ones who came from unlikely backgrounds. And, any state's got some of those. And,
Sure.
Here in Texas, it was Barbara Jordan and Ann Richards and,
Okay.
well-known women who had done extraordinary things.
Had they written books? I mean, is this, or you just knew? I mean, they are like icons, in Texas state politics. But had there been a lot of writing about them that had existed, or did you have biographies?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Biographies. And then, biographies were great because they really opened my mind to what was possible. Mm-hmm. Because they both came from very different and very difficult backgrounds.
Right.
And then when you're open to something, I remember, after I'd read quite a few biographies, and then I thought, I'm just not settled within myself. I'm too tight. Mm-hmm. And I need some way to, relax and just be, more like a regular human being. Okay. And when you're open to that, you will notice when it floats by. And floating into the mailbox was a flyer from I'm here near Dallas, mm-hmm. and there was a flyer from Southern Methodist University for some of their, continuing ed kind of courses, and one was called Elegant Communication.
Ah, okay.
And I thought, I'm going to take that. That turned out to be the introductory kind of level 1 piece to a neuro-linguistic programming practice that is run by a very fine practitioner here in the Dallas market. And a year later, I was in her year-long course. I mm-hmm. did that for a couple of years and really cleaned up a lot of I call it head and heart trash.
Right.
Those unhelpful stories that we make when we're little tiny kids and we don't know any better.
Can you share some of those stories if you're open to doing that?
Sure. So I grew up in a military family, and my mm-hmm. dad, if PTSD had been diagnosable back in the day, he'd have been the poster child. Okay. Now, he wouldn't have been the only one. There were a lot of them.
Wow.
And we would just, you never knew when he was going to, I mean, he was a great guy in a lot of ways, but you never knew when he was going to fly off the handle. He would sit in the corner of a room and it was like rain, dark clouds of were swirling all around him.
Right.
And so, that informed my early growing up years, being always on guard. And I didn't really know how to, relax and really connect human to human, because we didn't do that in my family. When I was in high school, I used to joke to people, yeah, you can come over to my house, but just pretend there's a sign on the door that says, check your knives, guns, and emotions at the door. Yeah.
So, starting to kind of learn from, your background, and, you got the NLP, and what was the evolution after that as you started to make the shift to learning more about yourself and, being more, aware in the moment of, your presence and your position of within where you were doing your work?
It really just accelerated my promotions going up. I got to do bigger and bigger roles, and have sway over larger parts of the organizations that I worked for. And I've worked for military contracting companies, and
Right.
I've worked for PepsiCo. It's a big, big Fortune 50 kind of companies, financial services, and all kinds of different industries. I really do like a fair amount of variety, and it was really important to be able to connect with people.
Right.
And I had to develop that as a skill as an adult.
Right.
And it's it's doable when you want to.
Mm-hmm. So as you're now in the thick of it in terms of being in lead roles, leadership roles with Fortune 500 companies, military, and how did that play out as being looked at as a leader, and really as a female leader still in an industry that was fairly it was guy oriented. I mean, at the time it was very military oriented, because those types of companies, they were ex-military. So how did you fit in there?
Well, I fit in fine because I was really geeky and I could think categorically, and those were and very logically, and I didn't have the habit of over-explaining myself.
Okay, that's good.
Which was something that I had to give up, because my mother, who is a wonderful woman, will never ask you a question without telling you a backstory about why she isn't doing it herself.
So there's very much a personality, behavioral preferences coming in there. So learning. So would you say your preference would be to do the backstory, or it sounds like more your preference is very cut and dry? Here's what you asked. Now I'm going to give you the facts. And I'm going to give you the facts and the figures.
Well, it depends on the context.
Okay, situational. Okay.
On the context. So, and it's good to, sometimes when people are up-leveling, they'll think, I can't do that, it's not me. Well, you'll still have the same skills that you do have. You're just adding, another layer of skills so that you can move in with confidence in bigger games. And there's always a bigger game to play. And when, we want to move up, it's so important to have a great sense of humor, to understand what the game is. Sometimes we like to think of work as like, this is serious and we need to take it seriously. Well, yes and no. Right.
So how does what would the Dorothy Kuhn of 2018 say to the Dorothy Kuhn of, I don't know, let's pick a date, 1984. It's somewhere in that area. Give or take a few years.
Yeah.
What would she say to that Dorothy Kuhn back then?
Read those biographies sooner, like now. Get on your path sooner, and find a good mentor. I didn't even have a sense that was a possibility until I was, in my early 40s.
Really?
And it's incredible. I mean, that was very useful, but how much more in the way of promotions, and because I had great opportunities and I could run with them for a while, but I'd run up against my, those internal stories that I hadn't kind of cleaned up. And boy, when I cleaned them up, it was like the sky's the limit.
Okay. So, get those mentors earlier, start reading those biographies. Anything else that you'd want to share to your younger self?
Have a really great sense of humor. Now, business can be tough. And one of the things, particularly if you work in an industry that has a lot of men, and most industries do, which is a cool thing, men have this, and Howard, you probably had this experience on many occasions, men have this like game metaphor for a lot of things in life, and they tend to challenge one another. Okay. And rising to the challenge will like put you with humor in a way that honors the other person and yourself is incredibly status building, and building status in the moment, and being able to drive that through to the next step in your career, so that you've got one great moment after another great moment after another great moment, whether it's on the more doing it side or the more strategizing side or the more people interaction side.
Right.
Those are tremendous things. You want a story?
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So I'm at Texas Instruments here in Dallas, and came back to Dallas after the job, with quantum mechanics.
Right.
That was in the Southeast. Anyway,
I used to have a Texas Instrument calculator, by the way. That was my first one. In fact, I probably still have it somewhere up in my box of things, but it's still there.
It's still there. Well, cool.
Probably still works too.
It probably does. It probably does. So anyway, I'm walking down the hall, or no, I'm sorry. This is the Texas Instruments story. Right. So I'm presenting. I'm working on some new algorithms that we're designing for a radar system. This is a military radar system, and we're instead of upgrading the hardware, we're going to upgrade the algorithms that run the hardware. Okay. And so anyway, I'm presenting my stuff to our customer, who is a bird colonel with, his phalanx of lieutenants on either side of him.
Right.
And I'm standing up, and I'm about a minute into my presentation, and he just sits up straight and he says, "We don't believe the range." Now, radars do, measurement according to the range, how far downrange you are from where you are to the target.
Okay.
And I did not expect that. And so I just had to take a breath, go inside. And this is a really great tip for anybody who is challenged at work, because so put a pin in the challenge at work thing, because there's honor that's hiding there.
Right.
But when people challenge you, particularly powerful people challenge you at work, what they want to know is what you are made of.
Okay. What you're made of.
And so I did not know what to do. I just took a deep breath. I let that energy land inside it. But I did know two things. One was I could not disrespect my customer. Mm-hmm. And the other was I could not look weak in front of my entire team that was all around that conference room.
Right.
And so I just, as I took, that second deep breath, I just turned around with my pointer, looked at the screen and said, "I have range in my data," and went on with my presentation.
Wow.
And so, I showed up, and, we debriefed, after everybody had presented their stuff, and he was happy, the colonel and his phalanx. Then they left, and we had a debrief afterwards to figure out what our next steps were to make sure.
Or find the answer.
Yeah, go. There's always a next step,
Right.
And we're walking out of the conference room. Somebody claps me on the back and said, "Kuhn, you killed it in there. That guy has been with us for years, and nobody has ever been able to shut him up. And you did it with style."
Bravo. That's fantastic.
So, you want to be able to have those moments and not take it personally.
Right.
Take it as an honor that somebody thinks that you're made of something that can be tested. Because if they think you're too weak, they won't bother.
You're bringing back something that we can circle back like to the NLP
Mm-hmm.
piece is we have a habit, and I know I'm as prone to it. I wouldn't say as guilty because guilt's the wrong word. I'm prone to it of taking things personally sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And we have to learn, maybe we do own some of it, but we also have to learn that, it's not me, it's the other person. And,
Yeah.
we have to be our best self, take that deep breath, recenter yourself like you did, and move on and say, I lived to breathe another day, and I learned a lesson, and put that in my little quiver of lessons, and
Mm-hmm.
we just move on. But
Yeah.
so many people just take things personally, and that just goes down a rabbit hole. And I think
Oh, yeah.
that's your background speaks very importantly about that just kind of having the presence of knowing, take a deep breath and just move on. Don't let it get to you.
Yeah. No, and know that it's an opportunity.
Right.
It's an opportunity to shine. And that's happened a lot throughout my career. And if you're doing something big, it'll happen a lot in your career too. And you want to be, in a place where you can turn that situation into a great advantage while honoring other people.
Sure.
People will love you for it.
Most definitely. So
Yeah.
I'm curious now, as we kind of shift in our discussion together. I mean, you've talked a lot about your background, the impressions you absorbed from, with the family life, going through school, going through those first jobs. How is that beginning now to translate into, there's a need out there for professional women? Maybe they have or have not reached the executive suite yet, but they're still, they're the people that the executives perhaps are looking at. How do you and the work that you're doing start to inform those individuals in their future success?
So I speak all over, and I will often start with, the top companies in the country are looking for you, and there's a very compelling reason for it. Our demographics are changing as they do decade on decade. They've always changed in some degree, and it's we are a much more diverse nation now than we were when I was a kid. I think that's entirely cool. And here's what more and more, particularly larger companies, are realizing. What PepsiCo did years ago when I was working at Pepsi, they were one of the first organizations to really take seriously diversity and inclusion.
Right.
And the reason that's important is if you don't understand your buying base, you will lose touch with them. And if your buying base is becoming more diverse, and your upper echelons and C-suite folks are all, kind of pasty white like I am, and guys, there's my mustache, then you're going to miss things because you don't have somebody at that level whom you respect,
right,
who can share that other perspective. And different people have different perspectives on life. It's important to stay connected with your buying base, and it's chief diversity officers are becoming a thing in the C-suite these days.
Right.
They're hungry for women and people with all kinds of diverse backgrounds because it matters to their bottom line. It's a great opportunity to catch this wave and be able to show up in a way that they can say, oh, you're ready. I can take a chance on you.
Okay. And so in the program that you are running that's helping women start to make this leap forward into areas that perhaps were not seen as venues for someone, successful, intelligent, vibrant women to, who have are success oriented. Talk a little bit about the program that you're running and how is the work you're doing serving them?
So one of the things that we do, there are five major pieces that in the formula. And it's really, one of the pieces that's really important is bending social stories. Every culture has its social stories. Every culture has some level of hierarchy
Hmm.
that is implicit. Some hierarchies are stronger, some are not quite so strong. And understanding those social stories and not being offended by them, but knowing how to bend them to your advantage in the moment will serve you well. And so, one of the things that we do is really get clear on what are those social stories. And I will tell you, your brain, people will think, oh, those social stories, they're just bad because fill in the blank, right?
Hmm.
But your brain, hears stories over and over and over again, and
Right.
it forms a whole bunch of information. Imagine if you didn't have the ability to size somebody up that you never met before, and you would have to build an understanding of that person from the ground up for every person you ever met. It
Right.
would be exhausting. So generally speaking, your brain serves you with this. But, there are times when those stories just aren't a match for the person who is actually in front of you. And being able to bend that is powerful.
Excellent. So we've got within the 5-step program, the building of the social stories. What would be step number 2?
Learning how to be an A player where it counts. A lot of times when people are thinking, oh, I'd love to be promoted, they're thinking about going from the doer state of professionalism up to a manager. That's a
Mm-hmm.
kind of first step.
Hmm.
And one of the things that is easy to think is that you have to be really good at what you do. But there are some of those things that you do have to be really good at, but there's another layer, that you need to, or you've got the opportunity to up level into and take all of those skills that you've learned and just take them up a level. And if you're clear on what are the 3 to 5 things that you kind of need to focus on to do well at that next level, you'll be fine to go there quickly.
Hmm.
If you think that you've got to get it all figured out before you go there, you'll never go.
You'll never get there. You're just constantly trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It seems to me that in learning, how to be that A player, having those, 2 to 3, 4 things that you need to build up to be able to take with you.
Mhm.
It seems like the social awareness, relationship skills, those soft skills that you mentioned earlier and how important they were to you in your career, that's very important too, because I would imagine being a manager, it's not just about telling people what to do because I said so. There's the successful managers have the people skills as well.
They do. And I'll give you one quick example. You good?
Sure.
So I'm working at Bank of America
Mhm.
on the technology side. We had a big team meeting for our area of the technology. It was in the mortgage space, and I'm sitting next to my boss. He's a senior manager, and this director comes in from across the room. And as soon as the guy walks in, the whole energy in the room changed. And my manager kind of leans over and says, I love that guy. You can just feel him across the room. And some people you can. They and people who are good at that stuff can turn it on and turn it off
Right.
as appropriate. And getting to the place where you can have that level of energetic control so that
Mhm.
you can be felt across the room
Right.
in a good way, then it's just extraordinary. And people are magnetized by that. It's a very powerful state of being.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we've got success. We've got our social stories, learning the things you need to become that A player. How about step number 3?
That know your organization. And that is that ability to very kind of a subtly informational interview.
Hmm.
Your boss, find out what's really critical to your boss, what's really critical to his or her peers, so that you've got a good lay of the land for what happens at that next level up and how those pieces work together.
Hmm.
You'll have a good first level understanding, but when you understand at that next level deeper, it'll serve you very well in being ready to move up.
It's interesting as you talk about in your work, the helping women create career momentum. Part of the interviewing process, in up here in the nonprofit where I was doing my career and life coaching, we talked about the informational interviews, and that's just a great, in addition to the homework you do before you get the job, or you have the job, you're looking to move up, and you have to start digging around. But having those discussions with people who also understand the culture, seems that that's very important too. Is interview people.
Yes.
Excellent. So let's go on to step 4. What's that?
And then what are those next level skills? If you're not clear on what they are, then you'll be always trying and searching. So those next level skills are by and large decisioning and relationship skills. Okay. And in the decisioning, I'll just, in the interest of time, we'll just talk about the decisioning things. Mm-hmm. But it's that next kind of logical level up where you're looking for how to make quality decisions at speed. And that means you've got clear criteria for what are those criteria, right? How it is that you make those decisions. And a part of that gathering information in knowing your organization is to begin gathering that how do you make those decisions? Because quality decisions at speed is critical at any next level up and the next level above that.
Excellent. And so the 5th step, how are we doing there?
That's really to get that payoff that you want. How to position yourself so that you do get the top raise, you do get the promotion that you want, or whatever your arrangement is that's really important to you. Some people want more flex time.
Right.
Well, if they really trust you and you've got good everything, you're much more likely to get that. Some people want raises. Some people want promotions, and whatever fits in you. And being able to do each of these pieces like as quickly as you could never imagine is truly important to being able to have that give and take balance with your home life.
Sure.
So that you can really, support your family, not just monetarily, but with your presence and your love.
Right. Well, and I think the importance of being flexible in the moment, you've done your homework, you're learning about the organization, you're learning what it takes to succeed, mm-hmm. You're upskilling the additional pieces that you need, and then, then to, try to, add some additional balance into your life. I mean, it's all, extremely important, and it's not just, okay, I've got the job, I'm good. Because if we're not aware of all the things we need to do, it's kind of like, I mentioned, it's like gardening. We've got to tend the garden. Yes. And constantly get rid of the weeds, mm-hmm. Cultivate the dirt, and just keep nurturing what it is we're doing. And even with a career in 2018, careers often are not long at any given organization. So we have to deliver. Maybe we have to change, and so we have to rinse and repeat and do the same things for the next organization. So we've got to be able to be nimble as well, I would imagine.
Definitely. These are what you're describing, Howard, are some entrepreneurial skills that are more and more valuable in corporations. The old command and control is really giving way to a much more collaborative mm-hmm. kind of corporate experience, and that's a good thing because it's open to more creativity, more problem solving, and that's what business is. Mm-hmm. Any business runs because it solves other people's problems.
Most definitely. Yeah. Dorothy, as you described this program, I was remiss in, we know it's 5 steps, but what is the name of this program?
It's called the Successible She Formula.
The Successible She Formula.
Mm-hmm.
And if folks want to learn more about you and the Successible She Formula, what's the best way, to do that?
The best way to do that is to go to my website, dorothykuhn.com/gift.
DorothyKuhn.com gift. And Dorothy, are you on? Do you have a professional page on Facebook as well as say LinkedIn?
I do.
I got to be remiss and ask about LinkedIn because it's kind of
Yeah.
part of what I do.
Yeah.
But
It's Dorothy A. Kuhn.
Okay. Excellent. So people can go to DorothyKuhn.com, they can go to Facebook, and they can go to LinkedIn. Dorothy, in the remaining time we have together, what do you want, if you could give, now that we've asked about looking back, what would you give the Dorothy Kuhn of 1984? What advice would you give? Somebody who's just starting out, we've got your 5-step program, but is there like an insight, there's no magic bullet, but there's certainly, if I was going to mentor people, what's that 1 or 2 nuggets that you'd want to mentor somebody that's really, they know they need to do something different, or they're able to do something different, but they need that help of somebody like a mentor like yourself?
Find a mentor that's a fit for you early. Here's why. When you are making X $1,000 this year and X plus $5,000 next year, you start that in your 30s. You can build a certain amount of wealth and career momentum, but you start that in your late 20s. That growth in both your income and your career trajectory is much faster. People are looking for executives, managers, and CEOs are looking for people who have career momentum early on. Mm-hmm. Those are the people and if you wait too long, you're past the wicket, so to speak, and so right. It doesn't, it's not as useful.
It seems to me too, whether it's your education, ongoing professional development, finding the mentor, finding a mastermind, and you and I both understand what the word mastermind entails.
Yes, a group of people who are on a similar journey together,
right,
for an objective that is worthy of them.
Excellent. And so, we want, encourage, young professionals to get on that train now. The sooner the better. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know, I don't want to answer for you, but I can imagine, like me, you feel once you're on the train, you need to stay on that train for the rest of your life, because if you don't, life is going to pass you by, and you're not going to get all those, achieve all that you're capable of achieving. So,
I think I agree with you, but I would say it a little bit differently.
Okay.
I'd say that, make your work your play.
Right.
And bring with it this whole sense of fun. We do this in the program. I am an improv graduate. Those skills are really incredibly important. And in fact, the most effective problem-solving organizations use improv techniques. And so it's incredibly important to be able to have fun and drive forward like you're playing sports and driving the ball down to score a goal or something. You get to have a big win, and to show up in a way that is that lets people know that you're serious but not too serious. You know how to have fun and get it done. Right. And that's the kind of thing that people will just they'll love you for it because it's not just useful, it's human.
Sure. Dorothy, I am curious, in the final couple of minutes we have together, is what's you're building, you have this successful program, you're continuing to develop it. What is next on the horizon for you over and above this program?
I have a telesummit. Sorry, I had to think about that word for a minute because it's not going to be by telephone, it's going to be video.
Okay.
So, and that is scheduled for the first quarter. And I just cannot wait to have just a ton of experts on there. Well, I don't know, it might not be a ton, but it'll be about 20.
That's a good ton of experts, yeah. 20. Yeah. And, you mentioned the importance of reading bios. What's the last bio that you read that you'd want to recommend to your audience, your peeps, my peeps?
Gosh, the last book that I would recommend wasn't a bio. It was a 4-book grouping by Robert Greene with an extra E on the end of his name.
Okay.
And I forget exactly the title because it had some. They all have kind of numbers in them, so I'm probably mixing some of the numbers up. But it's like the 43 strategies of war, and the 21 patterns of influence, and those books are incredible. Each of the chapters are brief.
Right.
He's a like an English major guy, and he went to work on cruise liners in the galley, and he'd read all of this wonderful literature, and he would see the dramas from that literature played out before him at every level of the organization. And when I was reading through those biographies, I also read through all of Robert Greene's work, because it was so illustrative, and it gave me a very rich understanding of how all the variety of ways that people show up in the world, much more than just living one life. You could come to have a good understanding of. So
Sure.
Robert Greene's work is just incredible. In fact, I should write a blog post about that so people can get it easily. I'm going to do that.
Fantastic. And we'll include Robert Greene as well as your social connections when we have this posted within the Facebook group, as well as when we slice and dice and put it up on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
So folks, I really want to encourage you, reach out if you are a woman that's very interested. By the way, is it just targeted to just women, or can guys take advantage of what you've...
Guys can do this too.
Okay.
These are regular human skills. I just seem to attract more women.
Okay.
And so that's where my marketing messaging goes to. But
Right.
there are always guys in the room.
Fantastic.
And I got to tell you, good men are wonderful in your life.
That there's no doubt about that. My girlfriend Alyssa keeps saying that too. So that's good. So I would say if you're whoever you are, wherever you are, go as a couple, and reach out to Dorothy Kuhn. Definitely dorothykuhn.com. Definitely go out and get that free gift, and visit her, find her Facebook business page, as well as finding her on LinkedIn. So Dorothy, I really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you again to have you here joining me and having a nice discussion about what the phenomenal work that you're doing, the very important work, because heaven knows we need leadership now, and I will even venture to guess we need some good feminine leadership, because there's just a lot of stuff going on in this country, and we need a different perspective, I think.
I tell you, I'm with you 100%. And my big container idea is to lead with love, fueled by power. It's amazing what that'll do for you.
Most definitely. So Dorothy, hang tight for just a minute, and so I can sign this off. But folks, that's it for today. We'll have another show coming up in the near future. Don't know exactly who our guest's going to be, but I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy day to listening to us live, as well as if you are able to listen to the recording, and we'll have these bits of the recording up on LinkedIn as well. So I want to thank Dorothy Kuhn for joining me today. This is Howard Fox, your business coach and LinkedIn lead generation expert. Go out there wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and have a phenomenal day. We'll talk to you soon.